Hey, this is Jamey from Stillmeyer Games, and today I'm going to share my favorite mechanism and probably some thoughts on Glen More Chronicles. I love this game. This is fantastic. I honestly just played for the first time today, but I can't wait to play again. And what I want to say about this game overall, and I'll talk about some mechanisms in a second, is that it is one of the best games I've ever played, best Euro games I've ever played, with the type of player interaction that I really enjoy in Euro games, and that you are never directly hurting any other player, but there are plenty of reasons to pay attention to other players and have interaction with them. I would not say it's a game that has positive player interaction. That would be my top favorite, number one. But there are plenty of reasons to pay attention to other players, and does it so well in a way that doesn't hurt other players directly. I'll talk about the mechanisms that go into that now because they are all my favorite mechanisms. The first is, and really they're all centered around this board here. The first is this track here. Tiles go out on this track, and it's one of these games like Tokaido where you have workers on this track, and the worker that's in last moves up, and you can move anywhere, and you select a tile and you put your worker down. And the player whose meeple is now in last gets to take their turn. You can even take multiple turns in a row if you remain that last player on this track. Player interaction, yeah, you're taking things that other people want. There's nice tension. You're trying to see, okay, what are other players interested in? What will they take? Do I have time to take more tiles, less tiles? Do I need to jump to the one that I really want? Great player interaction there, great tension. There's the economy here. Basically, you put $1 coins on each of these slots, and then you put like a cow here, to a stone there, and the cost to buy that cow is $2. And when I buy that cow, which I can do anytime on my turn, oftentimes you need resources to do certain things, I have to put $2 right there, which means that the next time someone wants to sell a cow, instead of selling it for $1, they get to sell it for $2. So there's a really nice, simple economy here. Again, another reason that you interact with other players, but you're not directly targeting any player. And then there's this two types of scoring that happen. One is at the end of every round, you play through 4 rounds, and the rounds are super organic. The flow of the game is really, really nice throughout the game. There isn't a lot that you do at the end of each round. There's not a lot of upkeep or anything like that. But at the end of each round, you compare your stack of things, so your number of workers on your castle, your number of cards, and you do this each one at a time. Your number of cards, your number of barrels, and your number of people. You compare your total to the player with the least number of those things. Another great form of player interaction. It gives you a reason to pay attention to other players because you're actually comparing yourself to them to score points. That happens at the end of each round. And last, at the end of the game, this is really, really clever. So in a game like this, you might say, okay, why don't I just always go slowest and pick up as many tiles as possible? Because the tiles themselves are really powerful. In fact, that's a really fun aspect of the game I'm not even going to really go into here. But basically, when you place a tile, you activate it and every tile that surrounds it. So a total of 9 tile activations potentially, if you can pull that off. So that in itself, the tile placement element of the game is really, really satisfying. But you might say, okay, why don't I just gather as many tiles as possible, do all those activations as often as possible. But at the end of the game, you do a similar comparison to what you do with scoring, in that the player with the most tiles compares themselves to the player with the least. Or actually, really every player compares their total tiles to the player with the least. And you get -3 points per tile that you have more than that lowest player. So in my game that I just played here, there were some players that had a very tight... I guess it's a land, a fief, an area of Scotland, very tight, like only 9 or 10 tiles. I had 16 in mine. Yeah, I think the lowest player had 10. I had 16 because I went after a lot of tiles, and so I lost 18 points at the end of the game. So I really like that kind of keeps you in check throughout the game. And you kind of have to gauge, is it better for me to get more tiles or not at certain points in the game, or maybe jump ahead and get a tile that's worth a lot and have a smaller, tighter area. And again, player interaction. You have to pay attention to the player who has the fewest tiles. I really, really love this form of player interaction in Euro games. There's, in fact, a whole other board that I haven't even talked about here that deals with other forms of player interaction. But again, you're never directly hurting another player. I think sometimes we forget. I talk about this in my videos from time to time. Sometimes when people say, okay, why isn't there more wingspan, or why isn't there more player interaction in Wingspan or one of our other games? There's plenty of interaction. There's plenty of reasons to pay attention to other players, but it's just not directly hurting another player. There are plenty of games that do that well, but Euro games, I don't think are the best fit for that. And I think That's the wonderful thing about Glen More Chronicles. There's so much player interaction, so many reasons to have tension and pay attention to other players, but you're not actually hurting any of them directly. So yeah, those are my thoughts. I really, really love the mechanisms that I described here. And if you can think of any other Euro games that do this really well, I've talked about many of them on this channel, but feel free to highlight them in the comments below. Or if you've played this game and you have a favorite mechanism in Glen More Chronicles or Glen More II Chronicles, I'd love to hear about that in the comments too. Thanks.